In the vast and untamed wilderness, there exists a timeless tale of predator and prey. It's a narrative woven into the fabric of nature itself, but it's a story of unexpected reversals and reminders that in the relentless pursuit of survival, the tables can turn. In the heart of the college football landscape, the cunning of one has reigned supreme. Although there have been many challengers, its crimson and white colors flash in the lights of the national broadcast and stories of old, handed down by generations while ruling its territory. Unbeknownst to his destiny, a youngling whose coat glistened maroon with shoots of light through the canopy, seeking legend, ventured deep into the forest of prowess where the crimson dwelt. Driven by a deep hunger and relentless spirit that can ne'er be told, the youngling carved out its own path by hunting the crimson's domain, earning whispers and stories of tireless, gritty bouts. As the Maroon's reputation grew of prowess bold and the Crimson's waned, he knew a challenge for his throne would be inevitable. That battle happened Saturday. Alabama, Texas A&M, the predator becomes the prey.
Gonna throw here to Parker at the 20, at the 15, at the 10, 5. He is almost. He got a touchdown! He got.
Left center field. It could be. It is a home run.
Oh, doctor!
Welcome to the AggieCentral podcast. Alabamers, you can call me Central. Go ahead, hit share, copy the link, and then send that over to your uncle's father, your sister's mom, that friend who used to be like a brother because he was always up in your fridge, or any other fellow roll tiders who say such things when picking up an 18-pack at the Piggly Wiggly, or while using the password while walking the heavenly streets of gold. That way, they can come on in here and they can get all they want too, and you know where to find me after the game. Everyone else, sub the channel, because we got a hell of a ride going on here, y'all. Way better than anything that old Texas State Damn Fair has to offer, minus the fried food and turkey legs. That's right. The state of the team. Let's talk about both of these teams to give you a little quick rundown of where each of them are at. They've been through a very similar journey. Both had week 2 losses. Both have had some questions at quarterback. Both defenses have played pretty much a high level most of the year. There's been some ups and some downs, especially for A&M. We've seen the game from Miami. We're well aware. Alabama, you may not be. You might want to go back and look at that one. Both have had some issues with the O-line, though. We saw that again in our Miami game, and that seems to reign true so far for Alabama. Am I right, guys? You can always hit me up in the comments and tell me where I missed some things. I'm not trying to get your team entirely right. I don't follow you on the day-to-day. So please let me know. But hopefully I am here to do you justice. Now, for Alabama, they found themselves looking up recently. And they're wanting to take back that top spot in the SEC that's currently occupied by one Georgia. A&M would like to make themselves a perennial contender for the West and lay to rest all the speculation about Jimbo's hire. Now, respect time. We'd love to have half the result Alabama has had. It's facts. And even in their down years, they've been better on the whole shot compared to us in large part. So let's jump in. Let me hit you with a little bit of eye candy to start with. Let me talk to you about the Alabama defense. Look at those numbers while I give you an overview of what you're going to be dealing with, Aggies, so you can get an idea of what they are going to bring with us. I think the first person to point out is going to be Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner is going to be coming off the edge from the linebacker spot. He's kind of an edge player, and he complements a very potent pass rush. Their strength has definitely been their ability to get some takeaways, and I think he most recently had a pick 6. Again, Alabama, correct me if I'm wrong. So they've tallied that up for 6 INTs on the year. Then you got defensive back Caleb Daniels, and those two guys, they lead the team in tackles at this point, or at least they did against Mississippi State. Their defense is going to run through the linebackers. The defensive line is stout, but the linebackers are where it's at. These guys are big and they are physical. They are large humans. I do think they have some susceptibilities. For instance, Jackson Dart for Ole Miss was able to use his legs a few times. So QB runs can be a bit of a problem in the right situation. A&M folks, and again, all you Roll Tiders out there might be interested to know that we have been gasping for air when we watch our quarterback run. We think this guy is being a little bit too careless with his body because we don't think we have much behind him now that Weigman has gone down and now we're playing with Max Johnson. We need Max Johnson to stay the course. So QB runs, they may or may not be in the picture for us, although it's a reasonable place we can take some advantage. Look at some of the stats, though, real quick. What jumps out at you about the defense? You can see Alabama's defense, number 8 in sacks, something we're accustomed to. So they're up there. They're getting 3.4 sacks per game. Call your attention to the red zone percentage for their defense. Fairly stingy defense in the red zone. So your numbers you're looking at right there, that's how often teams are scoring the first number, 77%. 30%, that's how many of those are turning into TDs. On the flip side, you can see, for comparison, what the Aggie offense is doing. So when we get in the red zone, we're scoring 91% of the time. Pretty respectable number. Getting TDs, 29%. We'd like for that to be upped. I'm not feeling so great about that number entering this game. As you'll see, Alabama's offense is going to be pushing that up to about 50%. So we're kind of lagging in that area. Alabama tackles for loss, 7.4 a game. That's a number also that we are familiar with on our side of things, as we'll see later. And they're very, very respectable, number 14. And then holding opposing offenses to 14 points on average, good enough for 17 in the country. Oddly enough, A&M's got a bit of an offense this year. So we're actually only allowing 1.4 sacks. And that's not really something Aggies would probably have guessed where we are. Respectable number, good enough for 40th in the country, and we're putting up over 35 points per game so far, which is a big breath of fresh air for us. A couple other susceptibilities that aren't on the stat sheet here, though, are the space that the defenders tend to leave for Alabama's defense. The DBs are fast, and generally the coverage has been quite tight for Alabama over the years. Now, there's been some space I've seen available, especially against Mississippi State and Ole Miss. I will have to exempt Kool-Aid from this. That guy's coverage is, I think, one of the best on the team. But they do tend to give a little bit of space that's allowed the quarterbacks to fit some balls in for passes. Another place I see on this defense that may pose a bit of a problem is the 1-versus-1 defensive line versus offensive line. When they're not bringing an extra guy, they can sometimes get into a bit of a rut where they're not getting pressure. And other opposing teams have had some success just going up on them straight. If they're not stunting, if they're not bringing a fifth guy like Dallas Turner off the edge, the defensive line can be made to look a little bit on the pedestrian side. Now, I mean that is no shot, to be quite honest, because they are extremely talented. They have definitely had their opportunities where they beat the 1v1s. However, as I've pointed out to you, we have had a pretty quality offensive line despite some of the results we feel like we have gotten this year. Overall, what I'd say about this team is their front seven is big and physical. They're complemented by a secondary that may give you some space, like I said, but they'll make you pay for it if you're not careful. They've got speed and they've got ability. If you're not careful, they can close really well. They'll put themselves in the right place at the right time, and you'll find yourself throwing an interception. And they are extremely good with getting turnovers. That's just facts at this point. So that scares me at this point. I'm not happy about that because A&M's ability to counter with turnovers has not been great, and we have generally lost the turnover battle. Let's flip the script. Now let's look at the Alabama offense. Let me tell you about this Alabama offense. It's an interesting little get-up we got going on here. You'll see a lot of these numbers just jumping straight off the page at you. Am I right? Sacks, tackles for loss. Here's what's kind of going on, okay? Milroe's heading up the quarterback duties, right? There's been a little bit of Ty Simpson worked in there, and they had this quarterback controversy. They didn't really think they were liking Milroe, went to Ty. Players didn't really respond to it well. Go back to Milroe, things are looking a little bit better on the up and up. I think they've got their guy, okay? Now, I'm not saying they don't want to have something a little bit better, but I think they know what they have, and they're willing to work with it, okay? Milroe is going to throw for about 170, maybe the 200-yard range, probably a little bit lower than that on the regular. What they want to do with him is get him to his first and second read, okay, and then go. So he's a first and second read kind of guy, and then go. And if it's not there, he's trying to get out of the pocket. He's trying to create something down the field, or dump it off. And his biggest strength probably is his running. I would probably compare him to a Kellen Mond type, to be honest. He's definitely more talented than that, but he's got the same sort of body type. He's kind of long and lean. He's got more straightaway speed. He's not very quick laterally, but once he gets going, he's gone. And he is a good runner. He's big, and he's physical. Not to be outdone by McClellan. Very talented, big, physical running back. And when they get Milroe outside, they can dump it off to McClellan, or they can lob it deep to Jermaine Burton. Now, they're not very explosive. They're only about the 75th ranked team explosive-wise, but this poses a bit of an interesting matchup because, for instance, DeBerry has not been great outside of 20 yards. And so if they can get their quarterback outside of the tackle box, let the receivers work down the field, they can get some lobs over the top, get it over to Jermaine Burton, who's got some speed, and they can maybe get some of those explosive plays they've been looking for. They've also got this guy, Amari Niblack, tight end. He's got excellent size and excellent hands. So he's going to be one you're going to want to keep an eye out for as well. A couple things I want to mention to you, Alabama folk out there, because I want to let you make sure you understand who we've got as well. On the defense, how we were able to get these numbers here is we've got McKinley Jackson, Shamar Turner, Walter Nolan, backup players that are really more like starters in Isaiah Rakes and Albert Regis. That it still doesn't account for Shamar Stewart, Malik Silla. A lot of guys on the defensive line have made it so that we're getting 4 sacks per game. That's why we're number 3 there. Interesting matchup there, because even though Alabama's offense maybe has gotten a smidge better, they're still ranking 127th in sacks allowed. They basically did it was 5 sacks, 9 TFLs against Texas. And since that game, they have not gotten significantly better. It was 4-7 against Mississippi State. So these numbers you're seeing here have not changed much for them. Now, A&M gave up 5 sacks, for instance, against Miami. I'm sorry, actually it was 5 tackles for loss. I don't think we gave up any sacks. Recently against Arkansas, we dropped that to 4. It's only 1, so these numbers were not huge anyways. But even just dropping that to 1 kind of, I think, shows how our offensive line has had some growth. Now, admittedly, Alabama has gone up against much healthier defenses recently. Texas, for instance. Texas is somewhere in the top 5 defensively, as well as in sacks and tackles for loss. Mississippi State is top 25. Now, A&M's offense, whereas we were struggling a bit, have not gone up against some of the most high-quality defenses. Auburn, somewhere in the 75th range. Arkansas, actually, though, top 25. So there's a little bit of account to be made for our growth versus their growth. They just haven't, on offense, they have not shown the growth. That's my point here. So the tackles for loss, 7.4, these things are remaining, and now they are getting ready to go up against our number 2 tackles for loss effort, and those guys that are sacking on a regular basis. Alabama, you're going to want to know Bryce Anderson. He's what helps create a lot of this havoc, number 2 on defense. He comes off the edge. He's kind of playing that nickel part. He's not quite a linebacker, but he's not quite a DB either. He's very disruptive, though. And, of course, you want me to point out the red zone. Okay? Now, Alabama's pretty good here. They're not bad. 56 is not where they had hoped they would be. But they're looking over at our number, and we're pretty bad. We're giving up points 87% of the time. 50% of those are touchdowns. Okay, so this is where I got to go off, and I got to say, hey, let me tell you a little bit more about this, because I dug into these. I dug in these for my folks, and I'm going to tell you also. A few weeks ago, this all didn't match up. Our defense was doing really well. We were like top 15 at the time. We had this really bad red zone rate, and I was like, why is that? So I looked at it quite a bit closer. It turned out at the time, this has been 2 weeks ago, we had, I think, allowed 7 trips inside the red zone. And we were like one of 20 teams who were in single digits. Everybody else at that time were in double digits. Fast forward 2 weeks later. 2 weeks before, we had allowed 7 trips inside the red zone. Currently, it's been 8. So we're not working with a lot here. So when you see that number, I'm just going to tell you it's kind of inflated because of the low number there. We're actually fairly decent there. I'm not going to say we're amazing. It probably could be better, but the trips allowed is so small that teams have to score outside of the 20 for it to get in there. But a stronger number that's not listed on there is long plays given up, explosive plays given up. A&M is somewhere, I think we're top 10 in that number as well. So there's not a lot of scoring going on outside or inside that 20-yard line. All right. So that's the matchup. That's what you got going on here, Alabama. Aggies, that's what you're looking at from these guys. You're looking at a strong team. You're looking at a very quality team. A couple of interesting matchups, I think, that are going to be key in this game. I think the Bama wide receivers versus our DBs are definitely a point to recognize. They have the ability to get deep on us, and like I said, working Milroe out, that can be a big deal. Special teams. Got to say special teams in here. Alabama's kicker is 100% on the year. Ours is not even close to that right now. There's been some key misses, and that could be a big difference in this game. It has been in the past. 2021, Seth Small hits the game winner, right? And we've seen what special teams can do with a chain grabbing back the momentum back in 2021 after a turnover where they blocked our punt, scored a touchdown off of it, right? Huge response. So those are some keys to watch out. We have been a little bit hands off, it seems like, a little hold your breath kind of situation on kickoff team. So we need to shore that up. We're going to have to kick it out. We cannot give up a special teams touchdown in my view in this game. That could be a real kick to the teeth if we did that. So my keys to the game are these. Very similar to Arkansas Aggies in that Alabama's offense is not necessarily going to go through Milroe like Arkansas's went through Jefferson, but it's going to involve him. What we need to do with this guy is basically the same thing. There's a few things we can do. First, it's got to be spy him. He's going to have to be spied, just like we said Jefferson had to be spied. You can also just really get after him, okay? You can sack him, get him behind the chains, get him off schedule. That would be great. You could do the same thing on first and second down. You want to get him in third and predictable so that we can really work on this guy, okay, and get in easy situations to call plays. If we've got some, third and shorts on the regular, and I can see us kind of reverting back to a little bit of the play calling that we've done on our defense. Some of the 3-down lineman situation, the 3-3 business that's going on, and then we can find ourselves in a little bit of a pickle. We haven't worked as well there, although we've gotten better. So Alabama, you can watch out for that as well. When we get into 3rd and short, we may run 4-down linemen, we may run 3. It's much better for us if we can get into predictable situations, as it is for anybody, but particularly us, I would say. Okay. Second key, we got to stay healthy. Max Johnson is extremely key. I think we can take injuries at defensive line, even offensive line. We got a few guys there that are playing really, really well. We got a few guys coming on the backside and defensive back, but overall, the quarterback needs to stay healthy. Final key, turnovers. Turnovers are always something in these games, right? As I told you, back in 2021, we had the punt block. And immediately following, we got the kickoff return by a chain. Was it the year before, 2 years before that? We got Gilly gave us one. He blocks a punt. I think we only got a safety off that or something. It wasn't a touchdown. But still, you've got multiple pick sixes back in the day by Kyle Allen. Pretty sure it was Kyle Allen. You've got Damani Richardson's end zone INT 2 years ago again. And then back in 2012, you got DeShazer's near game clinching interception right on the goal line to basically seal that game. So here's where I'm at with this game. This game has floated with A&M being about a 3-point dog. Yeah, I think it got up to 3.5. I've seen it now recently as low as 2.5. The games at Kyle Field, we're battling here. This is kind of a must-win game for both. As I've told my viewers, every week is going to be a big preview because of this. Both teams are fighting. Like I said, both teams are fighting. What happens in this game probably shapes the rest of the year, like big time shapes it. Like A&M couldn't lose last week to Arkansas because of the way it would probably shape the season and what it would say for the team. If this is a close game, it doesn't spell the end for either team, but it sure does catapult the one that wins. So here's where I'm at. A&M, 2.5-point dog right now. Take them on the money line. It's time to go hunt.